Y'all, I'm trying to eke every little last bit out of summer and warm weather that I can. So I am going to be filming out until it rains or it snows. Anyway, I'm finishing off Shorty September and I'm still in September. Yay, yay, yay. Anyway, so Shorty September, like I said in my last video, it is hosted by Bert at Soggy Expat Nerd, and I heard about it through channel Pet Story Time. So part 1 was the first 6 books, and this vlog is going to be the last 6 books, at least for Shorty September, because I plan to do short books all year long. My first book I have is Half and Half Shorts. Read a book and then look at the film version. Now, the book that I chose is... yeah, not this. Actually, what I chose is Brokeback Mountain, and that is actually a short story within this book, Close Range Wyoming Stories. Annie Proulx. She has 11 stories, and so you know what I did? I skipped all the way to page 251 and read Brokeback Mountain. I've seen this movie probably easy at least 15 times. You probably already know. It's about these 2 cowboys who go to herd sheep on Brokeback Mountain in Wyoming, and you know, they start a little love affair that lasts 20 plus years. I think I read this years ago too, but you know, the story's pretty short. I think I love the movie way more than the book. Some key things that stood out for me in the book though is that Ennis is disgusting. I thought that Elma got the really short end of the stick, and I also felt that the way both of the characters were described in this book, they were not attractive compared to Heath Ledger and juicy Jake Gyllenhaal. So that is definitely an adaptation I am glad that they did not keep strictly to in here. But this is definitely a very plainly told story without much dialogue, and the creative license that was taken with the film was done very well. And the next book that I read, or next prompt, was read a book that mixes genres or doesn't fit into a specific genre. So I decided to go with a graphic novel. This is called Something is Killing the Children, and it was actually really good. You have a lot of dialogue, but you have a lot of really colorful pictures as well. Now, this book is about 12-year-old Erica, whose parents are killed by some sort of monster, and she is taken in by this society that basically is hunting these monsters, and she has to pass some sort of test to be initiated. Now, this is actually a series. This is volume 4, and there's like, I don't know, I saw at least 5 of them, so this is farther along in the series. But it was really funny. I thought that Erica was badass. I really like that she's able to follow instructions, no questions asked. And the people at the society seem like they're really mean, but they're actually very sentimental and treat her very nicely. But this is a fun read. I think it'd be really cool to follow the entire series all the way through. When I picked it up initially, I did not realize that it had multiple volumes to it. Well, that is it for now. So I am going to go back to reading some more Shorty Shorts, and I'll be back later. So I just finished the prompt, Playsuit Shorts, read a book you might regret later. And that definitely fits for this book, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher wrote Nettle and Bone, which is a fantasy I read about a month or 2 ago. I'll put the link below, and that I absolutely loved. Now, this book is a reimagining, retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's short story, Fall of the House of Usher. And it definitely reminded me about why I do not read classic British literature. It's too much of saying something without actually saying something. Just too many words. But overall, this is about a soldier, a female, who has a friend write to her about being sick, and so she goes to the house of Usher and realizes that it's this dilapidated house in the middle of nowhere. The friend is like skin and bones. The brother's very protective, but he looks like he's sick as well. And you start realizing that something is not right. There's some sort of sickness or disease or something going around. You have all these hares, which are like rabbits that are like walking kind of wonky and crazy. And the friend is also walking that way too. So Easton, the main character, is trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and let me make sure that I don't catch whatever they got. But it had some funny parts. It definitely had some twists to it, and I enjoyed that. But it gave you an overall spooky vibe. Like, if I was to visit this house, I'm definitely not staying. I'm not drinking the water, and I'm definitely not eating the food. You could tell that the author thought a lot of Galatian culture, because it was definitely wrapped all up in the book. It was kind of annoying. Didn't like Americans, and also the very unique yet very long-winded way of expressing the main character's gender in here was interesting, but annoying as well. In the end, it's showing that, you know what, when you're a soldier, what does it matter what your gender is as long as you can fight? And I'm all for that. The book was decent. I definitely think it's an acquired taste. It does have some comedy, especially in the end when you're speaking to the sister, but definitely something that is not my taste. Glad it was short. So I'm gonna go read something else and get my mind off of this madness. Well, I am back finishing up Shorty September with my last three books. Three books right there. Okay, and so let's get into this vlog. So for, let's see, Runway Shorts, read a book with a beautiful cover. And I chose Yours Until Midnight because the woman is pretty and I really love the blue. This is a reimagining or a retelling of Cinderella. But instead of the prince, you have this star basketball player. And then you have this maid/nanny. Basically, she steals some tickets to a charity ball and meets him, and you know, they have a little tryst and all this good stuff. But what I really liked about this book is that you had some sucking of the toes, and also instead of the missing glass slipper, you have some panties. Trifling. But I really like this book. I thought it was a quick, fun read. It was very ethically diverse, with main characters being black, as well as diversity in all the other characters, which I believe they get their own books as well. And while you did have some smut in this book, it was limited. So very tame. Enjoyed this book a lot. The next prompt is Ripped Shorts. Read a slasher or a murder mystery. So with this one, I went with a short book that was called Slasher. And this book is basically a series of, I think, 5 or 6 stories that talk about aliens, there's monsters, there's killer psychos, but it reminded me a lot of like 80s horror slasher movies, which I really enjoyed. But I will say that I did feel that this book had too many details in one story and then not enough in another story. So it was almost like it was written by different authors instead of the main one author. So that kind of threw me off a bit, but I still enjoyed the book. And the last prompt for Shorty September is The Emperor's New Shorts. Read a book with an unreliable narrator. And I chose The Least of My Scars by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I could also put this book in the category of read a book you might regret later. This book just, I read this book about 60% of the way through, and instead of DNFing it, I decided that I would just kind of skim it to get to the end because I just couldn't take it anymore. I just felt that it was just all over the place. It was almost like it was written by a psychopath or somebody that was on some meds that was just one place after another, and it was just... it racked my brain. But this book is basically about a gruesome serial killer who really enjoys his craft, that is given an opportunity to do it for a very powerful person, and instead of going out and finding the victims, then the victims just basically knock on your door. So I think that concept is really interesting, that you have license to pretty much kill anybody that knocks on your door. No questions asked, whatever you want, make it long, make it short, up to you. I did question this psychopath's, of course, reliability throughout the entire book, of whether or not he was actually seeing the things that he was seeing, because he was talking to dead bodies throughout the entire book. It was just very disjointed for me, and I really regret that I actually embarked on this book when there were so many other ones out there. It took me much longer to read for what I did read than I probably normally would, because I kept going back because I was missing something in the sauce. But I did think that it had some funny parts. And I will say that I will never look at a wet, dry, one of those shop vacs ever again. I almost felt like that was another character in this book. But definitely will not be reading any more Stephen Graham Jones. Well, that is all that I have for Shorty September. I want to thank Soggy Expat Book Nerd for creating this readathon. It's been fun for me because I love a good short novel, and I hope to definitely do this again. So I'm going to get on to making my TBR for Black Readathon and Black SF-a-thon, and I will see you in my next videos. Bye-bye.